Alright, so this is Brian, and I'm going to attempt to fly this Boeing 737 and take off and land safely. Now I'm not a pilot, I'm not trained on how to use anything. This flight display thing right here, which appears on the left of your screen, I'm not trained on how to program that. I programmed it once on a previous computer, and because I was on a previous computer, I lost all the settings, and I don't remember how to do it, and it's really not entirely necessary for my purpose of what it is I'm trying to accomplish here. So this is my aircraft. It's a Boeing 737. This is my runway. I can get this plane up in the air, fly kind of a loop-de-loop. Basically, you can see it's runway 160. So 160 means 160 degrees. So I'm taking off at 160 degrees, which is almost south. It's southwest, I think. No, wait. Let me think about that. Yeah. So north is 0 or 360. So if you say 0, then south is 180. So west is 90, east is 270. So 160 falls between 90 and 180. So yeah, it's basically southwest, probably a little bit closer to south than west, so maybe south-southwest. Anyways, I believe that's true. I could be completely and utterly wrong, but that's what I remember. So anyways, I'm going to get this plane in the air safely. I'm going to fly. I'm going to try to land again on the same runway 160. Because let's pretend like there's a headwind. I don't know if I have a headwind or not. I guess if you look at that sock to my left, that should be on your camera right now. Looks like there's no wind at all. Looks pretty limp. So anyways, but we're going to pretend like maybe there's a headwind, and you take off into the wind. So into the headwind, you take off into the wind, which you also land into the wind. So you ultimately would take off going the same direction down the runway as you would land. You would land going the same direction you took off at if you were to land on the same runway. So, excuse my two dogs. I have two dogs in the room with me, and it's kind of late at night, so I'm also talking kind of quiet because I'm trying not to wake up my wife. I'm trying to do this just one go around before I go to bed here. She's already in bed. Anyways, really my main purpose of this, not so much to get the plane in the air, I just have to get the plane in the air to do what my main purpose in this is. Again, I'm not a pilot. This is kind of, I taught myself how to fly this aircraft for the astronomical unlikelihood that, say, both pilots inside this cockpit in a real aircraft get incapacitated and can't fly this aircraft, and say nobody else on board the plane can fly the plane. No other pilots on board the plane, nobody else is trained to fly, whatever. And so all hope relies on me, not just for the safety of everybody come down safely, but for my safety too. Since that's ultimately why I trained myself how to do this. I trained myself how to fly this aircraft because I have a phobia of, I always say I have a phobia of flying. It's actually a phobia of crashing. A pilot told me that one time when I told him I kind of have a phobia of flying. Now, I don't let my phobia control me. I will get on aircraft all the time. In fact, I worked in several jobs. Like, I was a field technician at one point where I traveled all across like the Caribbean and stuff. So a lot of flying. I just kind of grit my way through it and just say, you know what, whatever's meant to be is going to happen. So it's a fear, mostly because I don't have control of what my fate is, kind of thing. I'm sitting in the back somewhere in a chair, and the pilot controls do I live or die, kind of thing, right? So so I basically have taught myself how to fly this thing for two main reasons. One, well, I'll get with a shorter reason first. The shorter reason is so in the astronomical unlikelihood that I would have to do it, I could do it. And then two, and really another main reason that I taught myself how to kind of fly the simple way of flying this aircraft. I may not know every button switch. I don't necessarily know how to turn on the lights, although I think it has something to do with up here somewhere. But anyways, see fuel pumps and stuff, windshield wipers, everything's labeled, and if I really needed to spend time, I could do it. So I'm not too concerned with that right now. But anyways, the main reason, or really one of the main reasons why I taught myself how to fly this aircraft is I used to torture myself with watching like those air crash investigation videos. You know, planes that have crashed in the past, and how they were NTSB, how like they did the investigations and determined what caused the crash and everything. And one of the things that I've come to the conclusion of is obviously most crashes are pilot error. And there's a couple crashes, for example, that happened where the pilots like got on the runway and, you know, didn't complete the full checklist. They just took off without completing the full checklist, which I'm not even going to use checklist. And they forgot to extend the flaps. And because they forgot to extend the flaps, they go rolling down the runway. The plane does not have enough drag ultimately, but enough lift to get the plane at that low of a speed off the ground and moving safely. And so the plane ultimately gets up slightly in the air and then basically crashes. So one thing that my watching these videos has brought to my attention is, well, then, you know, I guess sitting in the back seat, better see the flaps come down. I always sit around the wings area. I've always been told it's like the safest place to sit, but I also like the ability. Sorry, I can't talk today. I like the ability to observe that, like, the pilot extended the flaps and stuff. So basically, I taught myself how to kind of fly a little bit, and I watched those videos and stuff to kind of get a mindset of what is going on throughout the flight. So like I can be sitting in that back seat and have at least some general idea of what the pilot is doing up here. And I guess knowing that kind of makes me feel a little bit more comfortable. I don't know how to I don't know how to explain. I guess it's a phobia, and phobias are ultimately irrational fears, right? So anyways, so I'm gonna extend my flaps because this plane isn't configured currently for takeoff. Now, I'm not going to configure it properly. I don't even know how necessarily to configure it properly. What I am going to do is I'm going to configure my general... Hope you guys can hear this. I don't know why I can't hear it. Everything sounds really quiet to me. But I'm going to configure my general flight parameters here. 90%, well, wasn't trained, so don't take my ratios or numbers to heart here. But what I have learned is most of flying this aircraft, if you know what you're doing anyways, is done on this panel right here. This is basically like your autopilot control panel. So, so right now, and I probably should have actually gone the other way with it. Probably would have been faster, but so be it. We already started going this way. So I'm going to set a heading for 160, which is what we're already faced right now. And I'm going to set an altitude of 6,000 feet. And a speed of 325 knots. And I'm going to go ahead and activate the autopilot, but it's not like on. Well, I guess, I don't know, maybe there's terminology for this that I'm not aware. Again, forgive my lack of what's the word I'm looking for? Can't think of the word for whatever reason, but my lack of ability of understanding the exact words and phrases. So anyways, until I flip this switch here, which I think is like auto throttle or something like that, I don't think the plane's really going to be 100% flying itself in any kind of capacity. Now, some things though, note, I always kind of find, I'm using the Oculus Quest, so when I say joystick, for example, I'm talking about the controllers of the Oculus Quest like you see in the camera here. So like I have it set to where I can pitch the plane up by pulling back on this controller like that, or pitch the nose down by going forward with the controller, and then like side to side, it's like steering. But, so you can see this is my yoke, and I'm doing that with this joystick. But for whatever reason, when I take it down a runway and it's landing or taking off, I notice that I don't have like greatest control of the plane. Like, you'll see me like doing this just to like hard right, just to keep the plane going center, and I'm not entirely sure why. I know in reality, you see these pedals down here, that would be something that the pilots would actually be using to control the plane while on the ground and actually in the air. That controls the rudder, but it's also like your braking and stuff. So if you apply more braking to one side, your plane will, turn to that side because more drag on that side. So I'm trying to think what else. I know I have my parking brake on right now, so that's the other thing that's kind of going on here. Again, I don't know if you can hear it. I can't hear anything at the moment, so I turned my TV down that I'm connected to, so maybe that's why. But like the engines and everything, I don't hear any of that right now, so I'm not entirely sure what's going on. But my engines are rolling. You can see over here. Oops, I'm hitting my desk with my Oculus. You can see on these displays here that basically the engines are moving. So looks like I have something like let's see, I'm trying to remember which one's which. I think I'm at 20, I don't know, whatever. Yeah, I'm not trained. I don't know anything about what I'm doing here. I've just, I can't say I don't know anything. Obviously I know something, and I know enough, but I'm not trained at all in any of this stuff. I just kind of trained myself how to use very specific things on this dashboard here to make the plane do what I want it to do. So anyways, for the time being, let's get up in the air, because I'm losing daylight, and yes, there actually is a clock going. It's like 5:30ish. I don't know if that's even anywhere on this display somewhere. I don't see it, but anyways, it's like 5:30ish p.m. in the game, and so the sun actually will go down at some point. But anyways, the engine's already on, the plane's already powered up, it's already ready to roll. The only thing that it's not done is programmed, and I'm sure there may be something somewhere else, because every time I start to roll down the runway, I get like an alarm that beeps at me. Now I don't know if you'll hear it. Again, I can't, for whatever reason. I can't hear anything right now, so, which is kind of weird, so I'm not really sure why that is. And that might be because I have the volume on like my TV turned down. But anyways, so let's get this going. Let's get up in the air. Again, this is more about me landing than it is taking off. So, parking brake off, and let's go. Yeah, okay, I can kind of hear an alarm going. So, what's going on with my joystick here? Why is my... Alright. Now, I don't know the appropriate V1 and rotate speeds, but I kind of always do that around 150 knots. So we're rotating now. And I'll start adjusting the flaps. And we'll go ahead and turn auto throttle on. And so plane's gonna kind of fly itself here. And I guess we can go ahead and get the wheels up. And probably go ahead and finish extending the flaps. So the plane's going to get some speed going first before it's really going to do some major climbing. Because you need speed in order to climb. And actually, I'm probably not going to land on the runway the same way that I took off. Just because, kind of sake of time here. Okay, so the plane is now, we kind of are up to speed, so now the plane's going to start climbing. Now, autopilot climb, apparently, I have it set really aggressively, I've noticed. It kind of pitches way up, but it's okay, whatever, as long as we do this safely. Now, problem I know is at the moment, again, I can't really hear any alerts and alarms and everything, so there might be things that I might not be able to hear that are going on. So I'm going to get up to altitude, which again is 6,000 feet. So this is my display that I'm watching. Over here is your airspeed. So I have it set to 325. It's going to kind of get a little higher until these two numbers kind of balance out. Like I want this to get to 6,000, and so you need speed to climb. So because we're climbing still, it's going to be a little higher. But once we get to 6,000, then it's going to try to level off on the speed, and it's going to be a trade-off back and forth between the two. And then I'm heading 160, which is my 160, so in fact, I'm going to kind of let it fly out for a little bit, and I'm going to go ahead and adjust this now. Auto braking, I turn it to max just to help slow the plane down once I land. That's what I think that does anyways. Again, in real life you'd also be hitting these pedals, but I don't have the ability to hit these pedals. So you can see we're kind of now leveled off between 6,000 feet and 325. It'll vary a little bit as the plane kind of stabilizes itself. But anyways, so I'm going to go ahead and actually adjust the heading, let's say 20 degrees to the right, so it'll make us 380, or bring us to south. Actually, we'll do 15 degrees. I think 20 is probably a little too aggressive. Nah, let's go with 20. 20 might be actually fine. So you can see the plane's turning as I dial this. So again, most of your flying is right here when you have the autopilot activated, which I do at the moment. So right now I'm flying autopilot. So my heading's 180 now, completely. We're heading completely south. My speed's still 325, which it is, and my height is 6,000 feet, which it is. So once we kind of get a little further over the water, I'm going to try not to get quite out to that land stripping, whatever you want to call it. Once we get a little further out to the water, I'm going to start slowing us down, kind of bring the plane down a little bit, and also changing the heading to come back towards the basically loop around and come back towards the runway and land the plane, which is really the main purpose of this video, is more the landing than the takeoff. So let's go ahead and actually start adjusting this. I'm going to go ahead and start with slowing down first. So I'm going to slow this down to say 250. Okay, so you see it's coming down now. And I'm going to go ahead and start adjusting us down to, we'll say 4,000 feet for now. And I just had it, and I don't know why I instinctively kept clicking. There we go. So level change, that inputs my the fact that we're trying to come down. Now here's again the next trade-off. I have us trying to slow down even if I wanted to keep the same altitude, but I also have us now trading altitude, coming down in altitude. So the plane's going to have to juggle between, do I drop in altitude or drop in speed? I can't do both, because ultimately to come down in altitude you're going to gain airspeed. There's a trade-off between, because of gravity and stuff, you're going to gain speed as you come down. So now it's trying to, it's slowly coming down, but because we're still dropping airspeed at the moment, we're not dropping altitude significantly. Once we reach like the 250 and maybe a little below 250, then you'll see the nose kind of start to pitch down. And there we go, we're at 250 and the nose is starting to kind of pitch down a little bit. Not aggressively, but now we're coming down a little bit more, faster. So anyways, so I'm going to start changing the, so we're going to say 160, and then I'm going to go 140 for now. Actually, I should probably be more aggressive about it, because the ultimate truth is, see, 160 is the 340s, 180 degrees back to the runway. So heading 340 is what I actually want. So that would mean the other runway would be probably 34. So there's runway 30 or runway 16 and runway 34 is probably what I'm gonna have. So now you're seeing that we're turning, and I'm going to head back towards the runway. I'm probably actually going to be a little bit too far out to the right, so let's back this off a little bit. We'll say by 15 degrees. Alright. And I'm going to go ahead and probably adjust this down a little bit. Not quite that aggressive. 34 is probably good. Okay, I have a little bit of an idea now what it is I'm looking for. And actually I'm probably right on the money, so we're actually going to go ahead and go back to 340. There we go. So, okay, now I'm also going to reduce us to say 225. Speed. Alright. And as we start to approach 225, I'll probably, let's see. Alright. So I can't quite make out where the runway would be, but I'm pretty sure, yeah, we're heading back towards the runway. I think the runway is kind of, you see almost like these dots, there's kind of like a circle and like a crosshair in between it, and I think the runway's kind of right at the center of that circle, and those dots kind of lead you in towards the runway. So I'm a little to the right of the runway, lined up a little to the right of the runway, so at some point I'm going to have to probably make an adjustment. We'll worry more about that when I get closer. For now, we're just going to basically fly with this as it is. So now I have it set to 3,400 feet, 225 knots, 225 knots, and heading 340, heading 340. So right now the plane is basically flying itself. And like these instructions are kind of things that air traffic control would ultimately be giving me. As like if I were, you know, a passenger on the plane that had to take to the pilot seat because nobody else could fly. So, and I know like the radio and stuff's over here, so if I need to change radio channels and stuff, all that's done over here. I just, again, this is purely like just bare minimum to fly this thing and land this thing as safely as possible, just for my own sake. Now if I wanted to, let's see, well, it's extend, retractable, I know somewhere, maybe these are the lights. I don't know. I think those are all the lights. I don't think I messed with anything otherwise. I know, like, see, where's the windshield wipers, for example, here? So boom, like, now I got the windshield wipers on. Like, it's not raining, so I don't need them on, but I could actually set it to where it was raining, but I'm not too interested in that. And I think I kind of see the runway straight ahead, so I think I'm actually fairly well lined up on it. I mean, maybe a little adjustments, but so I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna go ahead and adjust this to not that aggressive. We'll say 29 is probably more than enough, and we'll call for a level change. We'll probably also put this at 200 for now. And as I get a little closer to 200, I'll probably start putting flaps. Yeah, I think I do see the runway, and I think I'm a little off. So we're also going to go ahead and make a maneuver. I'll say 15 degrees for now, just to kind of center us up on the runway. Probably have to go for 2500, and we'll call another level change. And I'll go ahead and put the wheels down. It's probably a little early for that, but and we'll go ahead and call for a speed reduction to 185. And we'll go ahead and extend flaps to almost full flaps, but not quite. And we're probably also a little ready. I'm probably actually overshot it a little bit. So we're probably going to correct by 5 degrees. There we go. And actually, we're probably good for trying to get right up on it now. There we go. Alright, so where are we at? We're at 2500. I'm at all the speeds and everything I want. It'll probably even drop us down to 1700. And I'm going to make a little bit of a correction. Probably a little too steep, but it's okay. There we go. As we get closer, I'm going to kind of manually start flying it. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and maybe increase this a little bit more. I'm going to go ahead and probably put this at 15. And I'm probably going to go ahead and actually auto throttle off, take control of it. And I'm probably going to go ahead and full flaps us here. So I'm completely manual now. I'm losing a little too much speed here. So I'm going to go ahead and increase throttle. It's probably a little too much throttle increase. Although, for the time being, my speed is a little low, judging by the pappies. So I'm going to try to kind of level off for now. Trying to line up a little better. So I'm too low. But I think we'll be okay. I'm lined up pretty well, all manual. They always say red's dead. So you see my runway straight ahead. There's both lights on both sides. You only have to pay attention to one side. You want to see 2 red and 2 white. There's 4 lights there, so you want to see half of them white. Right now I see all red. And they say red is dead, so red means I'm coming in too low. There we go, starting to see some whites. So, it's alright though. We're kind of perfect right now. And, see, wheels are down, full flaps. I'm going to go ahead and back off on the throttle. how smooth of a landing that was. We'll look. I'll go back and check it out. I always have a hard time with keeping the runway steady or straight on the center when I'm trying to do things like the reverse thrusters and stuff. The reality in real life. Alright, so we can go ahead and put the parking brake on. So there we go, we're down. So in reality, I would just have to reach out and pull it. I wouldn't really even have to take my eyes off the runway. But in VR, I have to actually click on it and point to it and everything. So it's a little bit more intensive. I don't even think I touched my speed brake once. I'm kind of actually impressed. I tend to rely a little too much on my speed brake sometimes. Alright, so let's go ahead and rewind this and see how we did. So it's rewinding now. So we're going to back up here in a second. And at some point I'm going to change my perspective. So that's probably good right there. Alright, so now let's change my perspective. So we'll do a chase first. And we'll go ahead and play. Alright, so let's see how this looks from behind. I have a habit of touching down with my front wheel first, and that's really not good. It's hard to get a sense when you're not actually in the plane. So we'll see how I actually did this time. And I'm actually kind of, overall, I mean, I don't know how hard that would have actually been. I didn't see too much bounce in the suspension, but I'm actually kind of impressed by that. Now, the only thing that I don't like is that I kind of started veering as I'm trying to go for my reverse thruster, but I caught it and we're good. So let's go ahead and rewind again and change. It actually almost looked perfect. I mean, maybe the flare could have been a little bit more exaggerated, but let's change view to what the tower would have seen. You might have a hard time seeing this because of the resolution of the video. I can see it better through my headset, but it's hard to quite make out exactly. I mean, it looked almost picture perfect from up here, but the tower's kind of far from where I touched down. So let's go ahead and pause and replay. And I'm going to do one last view, and this is going to be from the front of the plane. So perspective, circle. So here, I'm in the front of the plane. The runway is like right over there. So let's go ahead and play. So we're coming up on the runway. Alright. Yeah, it actually looked pretty perfect. I mean, it could have been a little bit more center. But I'm actually kind of happy with that flare. I mean, again, the veer, I didn't like the fact I veered, but I caught it. I mean, it was all good. So, I don't know how realistic it is to think that I can actually fly this plane in real life, like I just did in VR anyways. But at least if it was me or we crash, I would feel at least somewhat comfortable trying my luck. I kind of actually would like to see what I could really do in a real aircraft, like, supervised by a pilot or something. I don't know if there's any kind of program out there other than going through, flight school. Let's do one more. I'm actually so happy with this, how this looks. I'm going to back us out slowly, a little bit faster, but I just kind of want to see that touchdown one more time. That was almost perfect. In fact, I kind of want to play that one more time. I mean, yeah, that was almost like right on the money. Alright, let's replay it from one more angle. I don't know what angle I would use. It's probably far enough. There's this ride along. I can go back in the cockpit. There's tower, circle, but let's go right along. I think that just has you a little bit closer. Alright, so play. And again, it's run by 34 like I said. But yeah, there wasn't too much bounce in that. I'm pretty impressed. That's probably one of my better landings. Alright, well anyways, let's get back inside the cockpit. So now, before, like, I guess the last step I forgot to do. First off, let me kind of line myself in my seat better. The last step that I forgot to do is, right now we're sitting here chilling on the runway and the plane's at idle. Like, if I want to, I can take the plane back off again. I guess I might need a little bit more runway to do that, but, so here, probably the real reality is, in this given situation, if I was forced to bring the plane down and I'm not a pilot, they'd probably have me just park on the runway, and then they would have the emergency services and everything responding to me in one of those staircase trucks or whatever that would come up and let the passengers off and everything, and like bus everybody out to the airport, and then they'd probably get somebody that's trained to, you know, like an airfield guy or something, to move the plane, so they can start using the runway again. But one thing I'm gonna do, if I can, I guess now that I have it paused or whatever, so let's go play. I don't know if I can still do this now that we're yeah, I think now that I started messing with it, we might be unable to adjust anything. So, alright, so I would feel comfortable navigating this plane at least to a taxi area or something where I can get the plane off the runway so they can continue using the plane, or continue using the runway. I'd probably bring the plane all the way down to the end of the runway and go to the last taxi and just park it there somewhere where, you know, the runway's still usable. But it's just a matter of juggling too much speed and brakes, or speed and brakes, like throttle and brakes, and twist, you know, turning and between, I don't know, the yoke or the pedals, but I'd figure that out. But anyways, once I get the plane to the point where I'm ready to park it, I put the parking brake on, which it is currently, and then I would, these two levers here, I don't know if I can do it, but this lever I would push down, this lever I'd push down, kind of like I almost just did. I don't know, it act like it wanted to. But anyways, I put these two levers down, that would ultimately kill the engines. It's important to kill the engines because they can't, with the engines going, people can't get too close to the engines, or they'd get sucked into the engine possibly, and so they won't get too close to the engine. So they would want the engine shut down before anybody like responds and gets too close. So before anybody can get off this plane or emergency services can really come react to the plane, they'd want those engines powered down. So I'd power them down, leave the parking brake on, and then I'd head out and get praised by everybody for saving everybody's lives. Just kidding. I'm totally kidding. But that's pretty much it. So yeah, that was it. So that was my stream. I guess I forgot to shut the engines off and park the plane somewhere more convenient for the airport, but we are where we are. Actually, one thing I kind of want to check real quick. View, front. Yeah, I don't really, it's hard to tell. I don't see like lights on or anything, but maybe I need to rewind to make notice of that. Can I rewind? Yep, there we go. Yeah, I'm not seeing any special lights, but maybe it's just too light out or something, I don't know. But anyways, alright, good enough. So I'm going to end the stream here. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you have faith with me being your pilot. So